As a great philosopher once said, probably, life is pain, with moments of euphoria and joy sprinkled in, and it's how we navigate that pain that predicts our outcomes. I'm kind of making that up, but I'm sure it's been said by somebody, but that's how I'm navigating my pain, is by having this diet ginger ale by this fire pit, when I would normally be doing 3 or 4 fingers of one of my favorite bourbons. But of course, I'm in pain right now because I'm once again doing dry January. Now, about a year ago at this time, I made a video called 20 Principles That Helped Me This Year. Now, that video was definitely a little more well put together than this one's going to be. Did a little more research, I scripted a bit more, and a lot of you guys reached out and said you really appreciated it, even though, of course, it's not going to hit YouTube algorithms like a body cam might. But I wanted to take this moment to look back at some of those principles briefly and just do a little update. Did I walk the walk in 2024, or am I just breathing hot air? Now, as a bit of a disclaimer, the title might be mildly misleading. I am struggling, but no more than I always am, to try and put one foot in front of the other and, I don't know, achieve something cooler this year than I did last year, and stick to plans and stick to goals and all these things you try and do that eventually just unwind as parts of your life fall apart and you have to kind of piece things back together. But in a macro sense, I am eternally blessed and filled with gratitude, and I'm constantly amazed and bewildered at the life I get to live, and I'm super grateful. So whether you saw this video last year or not, there might be some things in here relatable for you, and as we discuss some of them, maybe you'll find it somewhat cathartic. Otherwise, at least stick around for the fire pit. I'm not sitting out in 26-degree Fahrenheit freezing cold weather because I like it. I'm doing it for you guys, for Christ's sake. So intentional abstinence, that was what I led off with last year, and I think I parlayed that into the dry January spiel, which I'm doing again this year. That worked out well for me last year. I think it's nice once in a while to forego indulging in something that you like, if it's something that could potentially be harmful if indulged in excess. Drinking's obviously one of those things. I love to relax. I love to unwind with wine, drink wine with dinner, martinis. I love drinking whiskey on stream. Loosens me up a little bit, helps me, gets me a little frazzled for the camera, so I can walk the line of being a little too edgy sometimes, and sometimes it works out for an entertaining moment. Other times I watch myself back and it's cringe. But for all intents and purposes, this one has served me well. I'm doing it again this year. We're only a couple days in, so it's not that painful yet, but I will be missing it greatly over the course of the next few weeks. But that's about it. Intentional abstinence sounds a little bit fancy. Maybe I should just call it dry January and sound like every other pleb on Twitter and X that are trying to write a fucking thread to make you feel like you're not doing enough. Confidence from doing what you say you will. This one, you know, I've kind of managed this one by just not saying that I'm going to do anything. There's not, you know what I mean? That's kind of an easy way out of that one. There's nothing worse than the guy who's all talk, tells you about his plans, tells you all the things he's going to do, and just never follows through. And like, at least if you try and you fail, I can respect that. But you're much better off just being the type of person that moves in silence, like the G in lasagna, as my friend Lil Wayne once said. And you let results speak for you, because words are basically useless without any results to back them up. This one I've done pretty well with, strictly by just not talking that much about what my plans are. If we're being honest, I don't really have many plans. I'm not very good at making them. Patience, number 3. This one makes me sound a little bit like Gary Vaynerchuk, which is a little bit cringe. This is a tough one because I was just blessed with a personality and an example and my father that allowed me to have patience around most of the important areas of my life: relationships, work. I do not have patience while playing video games. That's kind of my outlet. You know, there's a lot of different layers to it. It's one thing to be impatient waiting for something to happen occupationally or whatever. It's a whole other thing in relationships and being patient and slow to anger in arguments and disagreements with a partner. I like to think my wife would give me an A to an A+ on this, which feels good. This is definitely one of my strong suits, and it has only served me well in the entirety of my life to try and practice patience as much as possible, because reacting emotionally, as we see in so many of the body cam videos we watch, on this channel almost never works out to your benefit. You know, all the hours I spend scrolling X, I'm like terminally online these days. That's one of the reasons why I'm struggling. I'll get to this in some of these later ones, but the whole, it's the always plugged in, terminally online disease that I think so many of us suffer from, and we all know we suffer from it, and we know it's degrading our quality of life, and it's cutting into our personal relationships, and it's affecting our relationships with loved ones, and we all just know it, and we all just don't do anything about it. Because how can you? I mean, society is just so plugged in now. Everything we do is online, and the ways we communicate, and et cetera, et cetera. But I'll get into that more in a minute. I know you feel it. Say yes if it makes you uncomfortable. This one, like, what the... I think I just added that on the list maybe because probably just wanted to reach 20. Like, hey, Leon, can I come over to your house and put an eggplant into your colon? Yes, you can. That sounds very uncomfortable. I don't know. I live in a pretty tight box where my routine's pretty set, but I do think that, you know, there's those scenarios. This is obviously stupid. You don't say yes to everything. It's important to say no to a lot of things. You need time for yourself and blah, blah, blah. But there are those scenarios where there's an opportunity to do something, and you know in the back of your mind that it is the right thing to do to get closer to the future that you want for yourself, but you're finding excuses not to do it because of fear and anxiety. Those are the times where you just swallow that shit down and say yes, because you know in your logical brain that yes is the right answer. You just have to overcome that anxiety and fear. An eggplant in the ass, well, maybe enticing for some, is going to be a no, even though it's uncomfortable. That's not an every time principle. Prioritize physical health for the sake of your mental health. This is definitely the one that I have had the most amount of success with. I will pound this dead horse until the day I die, but if you are really struggling and you aren't in some way prioritizing physical exertion or putting your body willingly through some sort of finite hell a few times a week in order to create a better overall foundation to build your life on, you gotta get after it. And I don't just mean like physically how you look. Like that principle says, man, it's as much about your body is all connected. Every part of your body is connected. And as we've specialized medicine in the modern age where everything has a specialty like neurology and fucking endocrinology, it's like all these different parts of the body that there's like a special doctor for. We sometimes forget that every single piece of your biology is one big system that all works together, right? So it's no secret when you're physically in shambles why you mentally suffer in a million different ways. Outside accountability. Now, this is one that I've done good with related to fitness. In last year when I made this video, this particular one was related with the sponsor, which is called Trainwell. I think at the time it was called Copilot, but it's basically an app that I use and I've used now for 3 years. That connects me with a trainer that helps me write workouts, and basically I just log into the app 3 times a week. I pull it up and like I have these workouts all set. I communicate with them if there's problems, et cetera, et cetera. When they first approached me, obviously it was like a financial opportunity for me. That's how I viewed it, but it's turned out to be a really positive thing in my life, and I'm happy to be partnered with them because it's one of those ones that I think there's a portion of my audience that might benefit greatly from that partnership, which is great. So I'm going to kick it off to Office Leon to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. I meant to ask you, why are you recording this outside in freezing cold temperatures?
Artistic expression, vibes, I don't know, fire pit to add gravity to the shot. I genuinely don't know, to be honest.
Why don't you just finish inside? Nobody cares, and definitely nobody's impressed with fire pit vibes.
No. I am finishing out here. I made this bed as shitty as it is, and now I have to lie in it.
Well, you are an idiot. Congratulations.
Yeah, that may be true, but you are me, so suck my dick.
All right, that's enough. Listen, Trainwell is a one-on-one personal training experience that continues to get better with time. My physical health is the foundation I build the rest of my life around, and Trainwell makes reaching my goals and maintaining crucial healthy habits much more manageable. Their emphasis on personalization and outside accountability, as I like to talk about, has been the glue that's kept my consistency and results at an all-time high the past 2 years. My trainer Nate continues to come up with fresh routines and ideas that keep me challenged while respecting the constraints of my tiny little home gym. I've gotten to know Nate the past 2 years and regularly connect with him through the app and video calls, and it's been a joy working with him as his professionalism truly shines through his work. Now, I'm a terrible planner, and I'm sure my wife would agree, so I love that I can just pull up the app, look at the overview, and it walks me through the workout, and 40 minutes later, I'm done and I'm on with my day. Trainwell also offers a short quiz that helps pair you with the perfect trainer based on your specific needs. Whether you're brand new and nervous to start or just looking to pound through a plateau, they will approach your program with all of this in mind. I use it, I love it, and it's helped me in my life, and I bet it can help some of you that are looking for a change. If you're interested, go ahead and click on my Trainwell link in the description. That's go.trainwell.net/Leon Lush to get 14 days free with your own expert personal trainer. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you.
Good shit, Office Leon. Thank you, brother. Personal accountability was the next one. This one I've been pretty solid at. I think it's more just a mindset, but I mean, it remains true that there's no one in your life more responsible for what happens in your life, than you are, okay? No politician's gonna save you. No sport, no professional athlete or famous singer or Hollywood star is going to come help you in your life. It just comes down to you. You got to figure it out, and everybody's dealt a particular hand that they have to figure out how to play, but you can never rely on anybody else to do it. Certainly, pointing fingers has never gotten anyone anything. Delayed gratification. This is one of those ones that I firmly believe in, but I am a miserable failure at. And it all really, it ties into the culture we've built around a million different bells and whistles being available to us at all times to cure boredom, quote unquote. Pulling up an app every 3 seconds, pulling up 75 different streaming services to binge watch whatever the fuck we want, playing video games anytime you want. Like, there's just never a moment where you don't have immediate access to something that is going to temporarily make you feel nice or release some sort of dopamine. And that is the kryptonite for doing deep work that is meaningful and allows you to accomplish things that matter. This is the one I have probably, and it's related to some of the others on the list, but it's definitely one of the ones I've failed the worst at. I am a sucker for alleviating and ameliorating temporary discomfort and pain and anxiety by just reaching for the easiest thing to allow me to procrastinate, whether that's a video game, whether that's Twitter, whether it's YouTube videos. And there's a time and a place for all of those things, but I am an absolute disaster at rate limiting myself and being able to spend uninterrupted time on things that are impactful to my business or my life or my relationships. And it is definitely one of the things I am struggling the most with. And, as we turned the clock into 2025 not long ago, one of the areas I continue to try and traverse and figure out. It's a funny thing. New Year's resolutions are a fucking meme. Obviously, it's like, once a year we come up with all these things we want to do, and then we fuck them off after 2 weeks and try again in 2026. It's like, no, that's a pretty shit way to look at it. For me, it's just constantly having things you can be working on that will better your life in some way, and giving yourself grace when you're failing miserably at those things. What can you do to remove distractions to help you focus on things that will get you closer to your goals? Like this I think is the present day one of the hardest things to do, because we live in a culture now that is just so geared to tear us away from anything productive or good at any given moment. So that one's a big fat fail, but you know what? We keep on keeping on. We'll figure it out soon enough, I'm sure. What gets measured gets managed. Yeah, I mean, I suck. I think I might have talked about this initially because I was like weighing myself every day. And granted, I still do weigh myself every day. I don't really write it down. I don't write down my lifts. I'm bad at this one. I do still fully believe in it. I think if I was better at tracking things, I would be more apt to reach particular goals better and faster or at all. It's much easier to ignore things when they're not written down somewhere staring you in the face. I probably told this story once before actually, but there was probably the last time I wrote down a financial goal was in 2015 or 16, and I read this book. It was like one of these guru books, just like that was giving you ideas of how to whatever manifest some shit in your life or whatever dumb shit they call it. And it came with this certificate, and you had to like write down this financial something and like put a date on it and put a date on when you're gonna complete it by or whatever. And I wrote down, this was before I had ever made a single dollar on the internet, and I wrote down like today is June 17th, 2015 or something, and it was like by June 15th, 2016, I will have made $1,000 through some sort of online income, whatever that might be. And a year goes by, and it didn't happen. So I failed. So on that same certificate, I pulled it out of the fucking frame. I crossed off 2016 and wrote 2017, put it back up in the frame, and then by the time 2017 came around, I had blown that goal up and by the time 2017 came around, I had blown that goal out of the water. So it feels like frou-frou bullshit, you know, but there is a weird element of manifestation that like making something concrete by writing it down. It's not even something you have to put somewhere that you see all the time, but if you have something that you're working towards and it means something to you, just write it down somewhere. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it by this date. May or may not happen, but I promise you it's probably going to be more likely to happen than if you just think about it once in a while. I don't know what it is, what forces are at work there, but something to it. Sleep, you idiot. That was one like, oh, I'm talking about how important sleep is. Like I went through, I'm a disaster. My circadian rhythm looks like it was on the beaches of fucking Normandy, dude. Like I'm just, I don't know. And it's just constantly habitually being pounded into our brain. Like research is coming out all the time. All the neurologists and all the specialists are like, hey, literally one of the most important things you can do is to fix your sleep. And that doesn't necessarily just mean going to bed early. It's like allowing yourself to get deep sleep and go into the correct stages of sleep, which is completely disrupted by all of the blue light we're getting from our phones. We're scrolling our phones in bed before we fall asleep. It's tricking our brain to think it's daylight. It's completely fucking us. And it's leading to a myriad of just negative health effects. But here I am. I mean, fast forward a couple hours, I'll be in bed. It'll be 2:30 a.m. Should have been asleep 2 hours ago, and I'll lie down in bed. And instead of just plugging my phone in, I'll have to do like one last scroll through X to make sure I see like one more unintentional, snuff video before I fall asleep. Like just so fucking stupid. But it is my kryptonite. It is the thing I struggle with the most is my addiction to quick hit media and video games. It's like, everyone has their own place where they get their dopamine and they get their distractions. You know, some people fucking reach for meth and completely ruin their life. Fortunately, mine are a little less grave than that. I'm not speaking for all of you. Maybe some of you have gotten it figured out, and God bless. Please tell me the secret. But I wake up sometimes and I'm like, dude, this can't be. There's got to be a way to tackle this thing. And I've always used the excuse that like, oh, well, I do social media for a living, so I have to be, I have to keep my ear to the ground and I have to be plugged in. And then I get honest with myself and I'm like, all right, well, 93% of the consumption does nothing to better my career. It's like, it's just me sitting around constantly mainlining dog shit into my brain through a 4.5-inch LCD in front of me. But again, it's one of those things. It's like, you can't just go cold turkey. You just got to wrestle with it. You got to figure it out. You got to set little limitations. Start with like putting your phone in another room before you go to sleep. Whatever it is. I need to be taking my own advice. But like a lot of things in my life, one of my strengths is being resilient. Maybe even though if I fucking sucked and failed at something for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, telling myself I'm going to do it, I'm going to keep trying to figure out ways to get better at it. It's the only reason I've had any success on the internet. It's the only reason I've had any success doing anything is because just because it's hard doesn't mean you give up. Anyways, that was a tangent. Don't be a mouth breather. I talked about mouth taping at night, which I still do. I've been super consistent, and I will scream about it off the top of a mountain. I get better sleep. It has eliminated my snoring. My wife loves it. Obviously, if you're someone that has nasal problems or you can't breathe comfortably through your nose, generally this is not a solution for you. But if you are someone who sleeps with your mouth open at night, highly recommend trying it. Takes a little getting used to, but it's greatly improved my quality of sleep. Focus is the new time, I said.
Now more than ever, being able to focus and do deep work on a singular task is a fucking superpower. Almost everything in our daily environment is engineered to steer our attention away from... Hold on a second, I got a notification.
This is one I'm completely failed at too, and goes along with most of the things I just said. A lot of people complain about not having enough time to do things, and I know I say that a lot when it's like, oh man, I wish there was more hours in a day. I got so much I want to do and need to do, it's hard to fit it all in. And the reality is I'm just horrendous at focusing when I need to, for all the reasons I just spoke about. And I know a lot of you watching this feel that all the time as well. This one remains true. This is one I am struggling with and have failed miserably at. I have fried my brain to the point where it feels like an insurmountable task to sit down for more than like 30 minutes to an hour and work on one thing, doing deep work. And I mean, you're talking about, this is the antithesis of creativity as well. It's like sometimes just to get into a creative state, you need to rid yourself of distractions and find ways to be bored a little bit and put yourself in environments where creativity can prosper and thrive. And that's the same for any sort of focused work, whether that's creative or administrative or left brain, right brain. And it is just so difficult when we are surrounded and carry around these things that are just constantly vying for our attention. And this is one of the areas that I have failed miserably at and continue to try and find ways to get better. These aren't things you just fix. It's not like you're going to reach this finish line and all of a sudden be like, well, I figured it out. I can focus on everything I need to focus on right now. And I'm constantly getting everything I need to get done because I'm not distracted at all. Now, it's constantly pushing a stone uphill, but I'm determined to at least make small percentage gains in my ability to do deep work and be creative. Nuke your notifications related to that as well. C-. Last year when I made this video, I went through you go through, turn them all off and blah, blah, blah. And it was good for like 2 weeks. And then whatever, you download 30 new apps every other month. And it's like, before you know it, you're back to getting a million notifications. I'm not bad with it, but it could be better. Talk about the easiest way to just waste your days away is by constantly being just nagged by some shit that wants your attention. So still completely believe in this one. I need to do a healthy check and go through and just nuke all that shit because there's nothing beneficial. Health begets focus. Well, I might be a living example, an anecdotal case of that one being completely bullshit.
Probably no surprise here, but it's going to be very difficult to focus on hard things if you're a rundown wreck of a human being. Fortunately, we've already been talking about the importance of physical health and adequate rest.
I'm probably as healthy as I've ever been right now, physically and mentally in shambles when it comes to focus. So I don't even remember what I said in last year's video. I was probably like, oh yeah, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's hard to focus and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Like I said earlier, your physical health's obviously connected to your mental health in many ways. But certainly, I don't know. If I was just a slug and not doing anything, would I be even worse off? Probably. But I don't know that, lifting some weights and running is going to solve the problem of social media and phone addiction, all these things that allows you to... It probably doesn't hurt, though. I'll tell you that. Brainstorm in new environments. Boom. Love this one. Forgot it was on there.
Bring a pen and a paper to a park bench, be the laptop guy in a Starbucks, go for a walk, and use voice memos to record important ideas.
Completely failed at this. Completely failed. I just started having thoughts of this again because it's so easy for me. I have this weird thing where once a workstation for me, is supposed to be multi-purpose. Like I do administrative work here. I do crypto stuff here. I'm emailing here. I'm supposed to be creative here. I'm editing here. I'm doing all these things. Once one of those things kind of takes over as like the thing that is captivating my attention the most, just genuinely, it's really, really hard for me to be at that workstation or in that environment and do the other things I need to do while that thing is available for me to be doing. I know you guys probably feel these same things, but I think this is one I've failed miserably at that I know would help me a lot, that I need to think about heading into this new year. And the final one is create a new perspective. And that one I want to double down on. I think I do okay at that, but I just think that is one of the most important on the list, because anywhere you look, it's so easy to think the world's ending and circling the drain. But, as in my experience as an observer and a practitioner, just having the right perspective and the ability to put gratitude first in all that you do. Maybe the world is circling the drain and we're all going to die in some sort of global nuclear conflict. Who knows? But I would so much rather spend my remaining time here finding things to be grateful for and finding the beauty in things, than living in fear of some unknown future that's being speculated on 24 hours a day by individuals and businesses that use our fear as their business model, right? So just don't get fucking caught up in that trap. I do all the time, but I just think I have the self-awareness to pull myself out of that and reframe things and be like, hey, it's not as bad as it seems. There's always things to be grateful for, whatever that is in your life. And this kind of goes for me, some of these, as we wrap this up, thinking about, this new year, like, I hope you guys can get after it, whatever that is. And I hope you guys can get comfortable in the struggle, whatever that is for you. Because everyone's struggles are unique to them, and you can numb it sometimes, whatever that is. I have my ways of doing that. But you do got to acknowledge them and learn how to co-pilot with them, because there's not really any other option. And once you get comfortable doing that, it's truly incredible the things you can accomplish. That's just me thinking out loud. And finally, my main goal, as always, the one thing I care about the most is maximizing the time with my family and loved ones and close friends. There is nothing in life more important than the strength and the health and the profundity of your relationships with others. And I don't just mean like online relationships and little Discord chats and cute little texts. I mean like in real life, people that matter to you, making a maximal effort to be present around them, to let them know that I care and that I'm there and that I'm curious about their life. I mean, we are so constantly wrapped up in our own problems and worries. It's a beautiful thing to take a moment to put yourself on hold for a moment and care about somebody else. And this is something that I definitely could be better at. And it is something that when I am giving it attention and in leading with intention around relationships in my life, it has really been wonderful. It just pays itself off in spades. Not only for those people, but there's nothing more fulfilling, that's you talk about joy and happiness and all these things, or how fleeting those things can be. I mean, there's research and kind of a general consensus that for most people that reach the end of their life, their level of contentment and happiness is directly correlated with the quality and the health and the level of the relationships in their life. It's not the mansions, it's not the cars, it's not how many people you've hooked up with after a night out at the bar. It's deep, meaningful relationships, and that is the number one priority in my life this year. And anything on this list that takes away from me being able to nurture those, I'll be making sure to deal with those accordingly. So I really appreciate you guys for listening. If you made it this far, truly a feat that deserves a reward, honestly. But I hope you brought in the new year with style, and I hope that as this year progresses, you find new things to change your perspective in a healthy way, in a good way, and lean into the things that are working for you as you continue to try new things that can hopefully pave a path to a better future for yourself. And as always, I appreciate your time, and I don't take it for granted. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Also, don't forget to check out the TrainWell link in the description or scan the QR code to get 14 days free with your own expert personal trainer. Love ya.